Hi, my name is Autumn, and I'd like to share my cancer story. When I was first diagnosed, I was on YouTube searching for somebody who had exactly what I had, to possibly explain to me what was about to happen to me. But it was kind of bleak and kind of hard to find, so I figured if I could share my story, maybe I could help somebody where I was lacking. So, before I was diagnosed with cancer, I was just your average 20 something year old girl. I was working, going to school, I had a boyfriend. I thought that, everything was going the way it should be. It was going the way I planned. But, life happens. 3 months before I was diagnosed, I had moved to Arizona with my boyfriend. And about after a month of being there, I started to get symptoms, but I didn't know that they were symptoms. So I began to have my lymph nodes swell. Um, I would get bruises really easily. Overall, I just felt sick and out of breath and tired all the time. And I didn't understand why. I was like, I have asthma. It's just a cold. It's whatever. So I kept buying Theraflu. I kept taking medicine and not getting better. And I was like, I don't understand. Why won't my lymph nodes go down? What's happening? But I figured since, you moved to a different state, so, and I've heard, people that move to Arizona, they get what's called valley fever. So that's what I thought I had. And I kept taking medicine, and nothing got better. So as I continued to have symptoms and get worse and worse, I would just sleep all day because at the time I wasn't working. So I would just lay down and be tired all day long. And, any little thing would take all my energy. Um, my boyfriend had been sent away for a training, and I ended up being in Arizona the last month by myself. And I kept getting sicker and sicker. So finally, I Googled my symptoms, and it said that I had leukemia. But Google's always giving somebody cancer, so I was just like, I'm crazy. That's not what's happening. Whatever. But I would be lying if I said that it didn't scare me when I saw that pop up, because my mother's younger brother, when he was 7 years old, passed away from leukemia. So I was like, okay, this isn't happening to me. No, I have a cold. That's what's happening to me. Um, but I continued to get worse and worse, and things between my boyfriend and I ended up, going south. Things weren't going so well, and I wanted to leave. I wanted to come home to Texas. So I had flew my cousin down to Arizona, and we were gonna drive. He was gonna help me drive back home with all my things. But by that time, I was feeling so bad. It took everything in me to pack my stuff. And even when he got there, he still had to help me pack things. My cousin. I couldn't walk. We lived on the second floor. I couldn't walk up and down the stairs without having to sit down and catch my breath, because that's how I was breathing at that point. But, he helped me pack up the car, and that night we we left on the way back home to Texas. And, driving was okay. Nothing happened to me while driving. So we made it to Texas, and I was completely out of breath trying to unload the car once again. And my mom's like, "What's going on with you?" Because I kept calling while I was home saying, I have a cold. Like, I don't understand what's going on with me. And another one of my symptoms, I forgot to mention while I was in Arizona, was that um, every time I would brush my teeth, my gums kept bleeding. And I was like, well, maybe I'm flossing too hard. I don't know what's happening. But that's another symptom. Um, but when I got home, I was just feeling bad. It took all my strength to unpack my things, but I did it. And then I was like, well, I have to go back to work immediately. I have to get into school immediately. I just wanted to pick my life that I had left in Texas back up, and just pick back up where I left off, like just get things together. That's what I wanted to do. So I had applied back at my old job, and of course, they hired me back. I went and picked up my uniform, picked out my schedule, told everybody, oh, I'll be back on Sunday. I'll be back. I'm happy. I missed you guys. And it didn't work out that way, because that Friday, about a week before I started going to work, actually, I went to an urgent care because I just was like, I can't go back to work feeling like this. I feel horrible. Like, I won't make it through a full shift because I can't walk from downstairs to upstairs in my house without being out of breath. I won't make it through a full shift. So I went to an urgent care. They told me, oh, you have tonsillitis, you just have a little cold. They gave me a steroid pack, and I took the medicine as they prescribed, and I just started to feel even worse. I was so out of breath. So my mom finally was just like, you know what, that's it. We're going to the emergency room. So on September 2nd, 2016, I went to the emergency room, but walking into the emergency room, I was out of breath. I couldn't breathe. They took me immediately back to the back and, took my temperature, took blood, the typical things they do at, the emergency room, and put me in the back. And I was in the room with another woman, and the doctor came back and was just like, well, everything seems fine with you, but, we're going to run a few more tests, and, we'll see. So he comes back and tells me, hey, we ran those tests and your blood looks really bad. You have 300,000 white blood cells. I don't understand how you walked in here. And I was like, and he said, you have leukemia. Just like that, And I didn't cry, I didn't freak out at that moment, but I was like, well, can I call my mom back here? Because at that time I was back there by myself. And of course, they said, yeah. So my mom came back and I told her I have leukemia. And that's when I just freaked out. I started crying, and I'm sorry. I freaked out. I started crying. And she just told me, everything's going to be okay. So I stopped crying. And I pulled myself together. And I was just like, okay. So they moved me into a room by myself because if you're not familiar, if cancer patients, when they go to the emergency room or the hospital, they need to be secluded from other people because our immune systems aren't strong. Catching a cold or anything like that could be a very bad thing for us. So they moved me into a room by myself. My mom called my dad, and my dad came to the hospital, and my mom explained to him what was going on. And then they had given me morphine, which turns out I'm actually allergic to, so I started itching all over. Then they gave me Benadryl to kind of, I guess, take care of that. So I ended up falling asleep. And we were waiting because they were going to transfer me to another hospital which specializes in blood cancer, which is what I have. So we just waited, and then the ambulance came and they put me in the ambulance. My mom rode in the ambulance with me, and they took me to South Texas Methodist Hospital. And I was there from the 2nd of September to about the 25th of September, because when we got there, we also figured out that my kidneys had failed. So I was in ICU the entire first week, and they started chemo on the 4th. And that it was a lot to deal with all at once. Just not only had I just broken up with my boyfriend, but to find out a week later you have cancer, it's crazy. And I really wasn't accepting of everything at first. It was just like, okay, I'm sick and I'll be in the hospital for a little while, and I'll get out and everything will be okay, and I'll return to work. And I was still thinking that life was just going to go back to normal. But that's not how it works. So I was there for about a month, and I really wasn't thinking about the fact that, hey, I'm going to lose my hair. Everything's going to be different. And I kept saying, when we were talking about me losing my hair, that it didn't matter to me. Like, it's just hair. It's just hair. But as it began to fall out, that's when it became an issue for me. More so because it was a constant reminder that something's wrong with me, that I'm not okay. And as you can tell, it's still, kind of a thing for me. Not because, I don't have hair, because to be honest with you, I wore weave most of the time before I got sick anyway. But it's just a constant reminder that you're not okay, because life's just not the same. And ever since then, since September the 2nd, which is crazy because my mom's birthday is September the 3rd, so that whole next day, I felt so guilty. I just felt like I ruined her birthday. And I mean, I know she didn't feel that way, but that's just how I felt. We spent that whole next day in the hospital, and it was about me, worried about me. My sister came, my aunt and my grandma came, my sister and her husband, and everybody kept trying to be strong for me, because I was getting pheresis and all these things happening to me. But I could tell that every time my sister would walk out the room and come back, that she left because she was crying, because she was upset. And I was kind of just numb that whole first month. I didn't feel anything because I was just so sick. But every time somebody would leave the hospital, I would cry because I was afraid that I would never see them again. It was just a hard first month. And now it's February the 1st, almost 6 months later, and I'm still doing chemo, but my last chemo should be this month if everything goes as planned. And my plans now are, I just want to document me getting my life back on track. It's taken a lot longer than expected, but I'm gonna get there. I've gained a lot of weight, which also from the steroids is, something that kind of makes me feel a little insecure, but I know it's fixable. My nails have turned black from the chemo. It probably looks like I have on nail polish, but let me get closer so you focus and see. My nails have turned black. Just a lot of things that I have a lot of scars. Just a lot of things. But my main thing in making this video is that when you first get diagnosed, you feel like you're gonna die. You feel like it's over and it's the end, but it's not, you know. And some days I still feel like it's the end. Not because I feel like I'm gonna die, but just because life is not what it used to be. I can't work, I can't drive my car, you know, it's just not everyday normalness. And my everyday normal will never be the same. And it's kind of hard accepting that also, but I'm gonna get there. And I just want to share my journey. And it's not necessarily for anybody to watch or, you know, I would love that. I would love if people watched. I would love if, you know, people came along and did this with me. But it's more so for me to look back on in the future and say, you know, you made it through and you did that, to remember. I wish I would have, you know, documented everything from the beginning, but I was just not in a place to do that at the time. But now I am. And, you know, everybody has been so great. You know, my friends, my family, everybody has been so amazing. You know, you think people, you know, people love you, but when your life is in jeopardy, that's when you really, you know, figure out who's there for you, and you'll be surprised. You'll be really surprised at how many people come through for you. But now I'm rambling, so I'm just gonna go ahead and end this here. I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and go along on this journey with me, if, you know, that's what suits you. But thank you. Bye.